Now, we generally assume that part-time work is for women who need to earn some money and manage a family at the same time, and it's usually low paid. But a report published by Timewise, a jobs site for professional part-time workers, has found there are more than 500,000 people in the UK working in part-time senior positions who are paid at least £40,000 a year. A third of them are men. Vanessa Dewhurst, Director of Human Resources at the law firm Mishunder Rare, is one of the women. Vanessa, why did you decide to go part-time?
I decided that once I'd had my first child, I really wanted to spend time with her, and I wanted to be able to spend time at the nursery, but also making sure that I could go into my workplace and have a career as well.
And why did you opt for 4 days?
I think I wanted to go for 4 days because I knew that the career that I wanted to go for was really one that required me to put a lot of effort in, but also that I was able to do that in the kind of environments that I'm now working.
Now, your husband also works 4 days, so how between you do you balance your separate careers and your children?
Well, pretty much, I think we categorise it really as working as a tag team. When I'm available to take the children into school, then I do it. He will do it on certain mornings. And we're around and about for the children as and when our careers allow us to.
And how much do the working days stretch to fit everything you need to do in?
Well, I think that there needs to be a huge amount of flexibility when you're working part-time. I know at Mishcon I'm very, very lucky because the senior team have a great deal of respect for my choice to work part-time, but they always trust me to actually deliver on what I'm doing. So it's very much a term of flexibility on both sides.
What about evenings and weekends? I suspect you have a BlackBerry. I suspect it keeps pinging. How much attention do you have to pay to work when you're not actually there?
Again, I think, going back to my last point, it's really about the flexibility of it all. My firm doesn't expect me to be at their beck and call. But if there's something in particular that is happening that they need me to comment on or be involved in, then I'll do that.
Well, Vanessa Dewhurst, thank you very much indeed for being with us this morning. So how much is this the way to go in future to allow both men and women to continue with their careers, earn independent salaries and juggle their homes and their children? Sheila Lawlor is director of the think tank Politeia. Karen Mattison is the founder of Timewise. Karen, how do you define part-time? Because 4 long days does sound like quite a lot.
Well, I think that at Timewise we recruit roles that are anything from 2 days a week or a day a week for some consultancy roles, right up to 4 days a week and even occasionally a 9-day fortnight. And I think I define part-time as anything less than 5 full days, Monday to Friday, in the office.
Now, you set up your site to help professional people find part-time work. What prompted you to do that?
I was prompted to do it really because of my own experience of being a professional person in a management role and wanting to move from that role and looking around at the recruitment market for part-time roles at my level to apply for, and I couldn't see any that were advertised. But I knew they were there because anecdotally I was meeting people all the time who had those kind of jobs, but there just didn't seem to be a sort of very visible, agile part-time recruitment market for people to move around in, and that's what led me to set up Timewise.
And why do you suppose that is?
I think that traditionally part-time has often been done as, in more senior roles, has been done as a concession. So when somebody's very good, a company might want to keep them, and so that person, they might opt for it to be 4 days a week. And then when but actually more and more small businesses and growing businesses are actually needing people 3-4 days a week, but they don't know where to find them because the whole recruitment industry is actually geared towards the norm of being 5 full days.
Now, Sheila, you had experience of this with your number 2 working part-time. Why didn't it work out for you?
you're running a small business, which is really what a think tank is, Jenny, you have a small team and life, and I think it's the same for any business. The world doesn't stop really at 5 o'clock anymore, and you as a journalist know that some of my friends in journalism have to do all day and practically all night coverage. In the world of business, for instance, in finance, the markets are open in the Far East and in the Middle East when our people are sleeping, and they work very long hours. But I'm not really a great fan of the model of part-time work if it's used as a sort of solution to the problem which women do face when they're trying to match family responsibilities with working responsibilities. And this is why, in a sense, while there's nothing wrong with part-time work if it suits the employer and the employee, on the whole, in the United Kingdom, we have a part-time labour force which is mainly made up of low-level jobs and taken by women. And, you know, it's all very well talking about these professional jobs for people, high earners, but the picture is really a much more different one. Part-time work.
But your number two was a man, wasn't it?
Well, this was some time ago, and yes, we had a part-time person, but remember, that work had to be covered for 5 or 6 days a week. We would have to train somebody else, and then the time needed to take up where a person, part-time employee, leaves off in a highly professional job can take a little time. And you know, after the long bank holiday weekend, people were a bit sclerotic, coming back to work only after 2 days weekend, 2 days off.
So, Karen, how do you avoid somebody else having to pick up the pieces because you're not there all the time, and the young woman feeling put upon, shall we say, because the boss has gone to pick up the kids?
Look, I think that what's really, really important is that not every job can be done part-time, but many, many jobs can. And I think the argument's often given, you know, it doesn't suit small businesses, but actually small businesses don't put their jobs on time-wise jobs because they're nice people. They do it because they understand the business benefits they get. They can get very, very good quality people just for the time that they need them. They don't need necessarily their accountant there 5 days a week. There's probably enough work to do 3 days a week. And I think Sheila's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Job creep's happening all the time, but that's happening in full-time roles and part-time roles. So, and I think it's very important that we design jobs correctly and we understand the difference between the two. So, for example, I wouldn't expect my receptionist to be answering the phone at 8 o'clock at night, but I also wouldn't expect that whether she was 3 days or whether she was 5 days. Now, in my own case, yes, I work 4 days a week. If there's something urgent that comes up, I will deal with it, but generally I won't make meetings on that day, and that's a protected day for me. But I think that I'm absolutely running a business, working at the top of my game, and there are so many people that are doing it.
Hang on, let me go back to Sheila. Sheila, to what extent are you living in the past? Because this may be the only way for a couple to have equal share of career and family.
Ginny, I don't think it's a picture from the past. It's the picture of today. Let's just look at the kind of jobs that women are doing. They're falling into ghetto jobs. 3/4 of our labour market, in the part-time labour market, are women, and 1/4 of men. And if you look at the profile of the jobs which most of these part-time women are taking, they're taking very, very low-level jobs, which are classed by the Statistics Office and the employment people in DWP
but
as
Sheila,
low-level
that's
jobs.
what we've assumed to be the pattern of part-time work.
Yeah.
Isn't what Vanessa and Karen are saying something different? That they are getting more high-powered jobs, and it's 1/3 of men who are taking them.
And
well, I would say that there is no one model, and this is the important thing to remember. Yes, there are some jobs, and absolutely spot on, if you need your books done once a month, or your annual return for the tax office as a business done once a year. Yes, of course, your accountancy and professional support will be on a part-time basis. So will be if you're having conference hire and rooms out and so on. But the day-to-day business of driving a business forward, picking up the pieces, doing a deal, picking up a contract, which your clients and your customers are not going to wait till somebody comes back to work, and you lose the business to a company where somebody's going to be working not just 5 days a week, but after hours and at the weekends, because people can't wait today.
Sheila, I think that actually more and more businesses, and it's not just the smaller businesses, are realising that that's just not the case, and that actually if you offer flexibility you get the most incredible people. For example, I was speaking this week to Lynn Rattigan, who's the Deputy Chief Operating Officer of Ernst & Young. She manages an enormous team and budgets of £950 million. She does it 4 days a week, and I think what's incredibly important is that we need to recognise and celebrate the kind of people who are doing those senior roles, because I, like you, Sheila, don't want people to be trading their skills for flexibility, for women to be doing jobs that they're way overqualified for just for the joy that they happen to be a couple of days a week.
Karen, I think your report found that both men and women feel stigmatised by part-time work, particularly men. Why do you suppose that is?
I think that part-time suffers from a really negative brand, and I think that it's always seen as low skill, low reliability, and what the research is showing us, and I think it's so fascinating to hear the views of these really senior part-timers, because what the research is showing us is that it's just not true, and that's why we're really calling for people who are at the top of their game to nominate themselves or to nominate other people they know that are doing it for the 50 part-time leaders, because we want to celebrate the people who are doing it at the top.
Sheila, is it time to reassess?
I think there's always... I'm not, as I stressed, Jenny, against part-time work if it suits the employer and it suits the employee. And I'm sure Karen's top earners and top professionals will find a job which suits them and an employer where the business won't suffer. But remember, the model of work, we're dealing in a global labour market now, and people actually right across the world are working far longer hours than we are anyway. And I'm afraid that our model, with its benefit-driven top-up time model, is an entirely ill-fitted model to the new workplace, and Britain will go bust because we won't be able to sell our goods at competitive prices.
Sheila Lawlor and Karen Madison, thank you both very much indeed for being with us. Do drop us an email or a tweet if